What's up, everyone? Welcome into our latest Trade Black podcast. I'm your host, Shad Dales, presented by Dutchie. Got a good one coming up today. Kyle Sherman from Flowhub is going to come on. He's had some great tweets over the last couple of days and weeks. This guy's getting like 10 million impressions in some of these tweets. It's about the right messaging that if we one day get rescheduling, are we preparing right now as an industry to have the right messaging in place? So we'll dive into that and talk further on what he means by that. Plus, we'll focus on Ohio. They had some new cannabis laws that were basically pulled back, rewritten, but it's actually a good thing. As we look beyond the headlines, this actually might be good for the state's program. And then if you got the news this morning, Cronos Group, they are planting their flag in Europe as they bought out the biggest company in Holland, or Netherlands, I should say. And now they're putting together a good European play. So what's this mean for Cronos? They got a lot of cash. They've been sitting on that cash for a number of years. So it's nice to see that they're finally getting to work and to see what's next as they, like I said, could become a big European player. So let's welcome an AV here on a Wednesday, midweek. Good to see you, my friend.
It's going by quickly.
It is going by quickly. Did you speak with Raj Grover this week? James? No, I have not. But we are going to be speaking with them hopefully before Christmas. We'll keep you updated when we're going to reschedule that interview. But no, we didn't
reschedule.
Oh, here we go again.
1/1/2026.
Yeah, I said before we get onto the live stream today, let's not bring that up. But here we are, less than 2 minutes in, and bam, it's already there.
1/1/2026. It is 21 days away.
Yeah. How do we do as far as it pretty flat today as far as markets?
I think it's pretty flat. I think the most interesting thing I saw today was Anthony Martinelli, the Marijuana Herald, had an article come out basically previewing a potential bill from Senators Merkley and Wyden that will allow for hemp regulation. Don't know how two Democratic senators plan to get a bill through the House and Senate that's Republican controlled. It looks more like a vanity play. I kind of wish politicians would stop with the vanity shit around cannabis.
Good luck with that.
Something actual that has teeth and merit that can get passed. It's a decent framework. It's logical. 5 milligram caps, synthetics are banned. I'm assuming THC flower will probably be banned as well. States will also have the ability to further regulate hemp products as they see fit, but it's not going anywhere. This is like another, who is it? Not Nancy Pelosi. This is like another Elizabeth Warren letter to pull some heartstrings and
remember those letters
in terms of policy. But that's kind of par for the course in cannabis. We've seen a lot of talk and not a lot of action, especially from the politicians. Wyden and Merkley aren't vanity guys. Thank you, Gretchen. Well, if that bill goes anywhere, I will eat my words, but I'm probably going to guess that it's going to go absolutely nowhere.
Gretchen Gailey, haven't seen you in a while. How you doing? We saw you in Washington a couple weeks ago.
Talk about hemp. Gretchen pops up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'm just saying. She said.
I know, and Gretchen probably does know them much better than I do.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that you're not correct, but I just don't think the bill, and you probably would agree with me on this, a bill authored by two Dems is going to go anywhere within the House and Senate.
Well, you can probably see like this topic is only going to get louder as we head into 2026, and there's going to be a lot of fighting and a lot of desperation, but continuing to hear and see that the days of what we saw are over. And I know there's going to be a lot of people with their arms up in the air. Got some good dialogue from Michael on Monday that talked about things, the state levels and some of the states creating their own rules. What's that look like going to 26? But, at the end of the day, as you said, good luck trying to get a bill like that passed because, I still firmly believe that if we're ever going to get any kind of reform in this space, the first thing that had to be done was cleaning up everything that had to do with the hemp industry this last few weeks or if not months. And now that that's been passed, I don't see a lot of senators basically second guessing basically what they voted on. That just doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
They could get GOP co-sponsors for that bill. I will be impressed. And that'd be a good sign. That would mean the GOP co-sponsors would be signing on for sensible, smart approaches to cannabis. We'll see. I hope that happens. I hope it creates a greater conversation. But as of right now, to me, it's just a bill that's being put out there to be a talking point.
Yeah. Yep, hemp got cleaned up. You're right, David Burke. Coming up in the next week and a half or so, we're going to have some content scheduled over the holiday season. We're going to give our top 10 moments in 2025 in cannabis. So leave some comments below on what you thought were the top 10 moments for you in this space over the past 12 months. We'll be featuring some of that stuff. We'll give some name mentions as well in that video. So feel free to leave your comments below. And as Guap says, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash on that bell for all notifications. We appreciate it here at the TDR Trade Black podcast. As I said off the top, we got a great guest coming up, Kyle Sherman from Flowhub. He has got quite the presence on Twitter, and he's been talking about if and when we do get rescheduling. And that's, again, if. I don't want anyone to run off to what I'm trying to say here, but are we creating the right messaging right now? Because as we're starting to see again on Twitter, there's a lot of fear mongering, not a lot of engagement in these posts, but
not even just Twitter. It's everywhere. The mass media there's a coordinated effort behind the scenes by the anti-cannabis lobby there's a coordinated effort going on in the media. They're citing all of their ill-advised studies. They're citing everything's coming out of the woodwork with an anti-cannabis position. If that is truly being quarterbacked by Dr. Sabet and Sam, I mean, they're doing their job. Don't agree with it, and I don't really think it's really having a high impact, but they're doing their job.
A lot of far-fetched stuff, but they got, again, people that follow the space understand that, but for those that don't, gets them thinking, and that's, point proven and a mission accomplished when they put stuff like that out there. But, at the end of the day, hopefully we get some direction from Washington relatively soon, similar to what we saw in hemp. But we live another day, and we continue on.
We have concepts of a plan, Gretchen. We don't have a plan. We have concepts of a plan around here.
Yeah. Top 10, Mike Tyson 2.0. Yes, that was actually one.
Oh, if that article was exclusive to Marijuana Moment, then I misspoke. But I saw that Anthony Martinelli tweeted it. I didn't see it on Marijuana Moment first, so that was my mistake. If it is, then go over to Marijuana Moment and read the original article that Mr. Martinelli spoke about, because he mentioned staffers that he had reached out to that gave him the information. So that's confusing to say the least.
Gretchen, I've got a plan. No one wants to hear it. Why does no one want to hear it? That's the better question. So let's find out what this plan is eventually. Let me know in the comment section, Gretchen. Give me a couple points as to what you think is the best way to approach here. All right, let's get into some of our topics here today. We begin with Ohio, where lawmakers roll back parts of its voter-approved cannabis law. But is there more to the story that actually might be good for the state's cannabis program? Because when you first glanced at this, I think the story kind of has a little bit of fear as to like, okay, we're getting some rollback when this was voter approved. What was that, 16 months ago? But You got a chance to review this story. When digging a little bit deeper, you actually think this is a good thing for the state's program. You want to elaborate off that?
So I think it's a net positive. I mean, obviously we've had a lot of ebbs and flows with the adult use market in Ohio. The state lawmakers have been going back and forth around some of the nuanced language around the bill for some time now. But I mean, this more so, it's a $150 fine from what I can see if you're, let's say, caught going into Michigan and buying cannabis and bringing it back over the border. I mean, it is what it is.
What are the chances
they're prohibiting it, smoking it in public places, banning hemp products, synthetics, etc. And I mean, it's not anything that's too prohibitive. If you have an adult use market, I think you need to have stringent regulations around public consumption. I'm all for everybody being able to smoke cannabis, do what you want. But if I'm sitting there with my kid, like in public, and someone's smoking, like I'd probably ask them to stop or move. I mean, you don't need to be infringing on other people's space in public. So, I mean, that to me, that was just common sense. It wasn't anything too crazy. If they were rolling back the adult use regulations that were passed by voters and augmenting the market to a high degree, then I would completely I would completely be against that.
That's needed. That makes common sense to me. But if you're going to build out the right regulated market and in a right way, these are some of the common sense stuff, because you see a lot of that stuff implemented towards alcohol. So all in all, when you look at this story, this is actually a good thing, is what your takeaway is based off this latest news.
Yeah, I mean, it's lawmakers doing their job.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, we'll move on to topic number 2, which is Cronos. And actually, big announcement: European players, they plant their flag in Europe by buying CanAdelaar, which is the top player in the Netherlands pilot program. It's a $67 million bet that Europe's adult use market is about to scale, and it gives them obviously immediate market leadership. So we've talked about this a lot lately, that, man, if you've got cash in this environment right now in the cannabis space, it could be a very lucrative one, which we well know that Cronos has been sitting on a pile of cash for a long time. And the big question is that for so many years, not months, but years pertaining to this company, is what are they going to do with it? But do you like this move?
Yeah, it's a good move. It's the largest producer in the Netherlands, one of the 10 licenses. That market's just going to keep getting bigger. I know that the greenhouse has a little bit of hair on it in terms of, let's say, complaints and fines, etc. I don't really have anything to comment there until we get a real. I'd rather talk to Gorenstein about it and potentially get him on and go through the acquisition, as well as, I mean, what their strategy is for Europe. But it's great. I mean, it's the preeminent adult use market. In Europe, Cronos has a war chest of cash. I'm pretty sure they're still trading at like 1x cash from a market cap perspective. And I mean, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg for them going into Europe. I mean, this does signify, from what you've seen Mike and the Cronos guys talk about over the years, this signifies that he believes that the European Union, I think, is a bigger opportunity right now than the United States in terms of M&A and in terms of where they're going to allocate capital. I think if they were bullish on the United States, or if they were just looking to deploy cash, I think they would naturally come into the United States if they felt like it was going to be a quicker, higher growth opportunity versus, let's say, playing the long game in the EU, which hails in comparison to our market in terms of size, but it's a much healthier market in terms of, let's say, doing business and just the way that they're going about their regulations in the EU.
Yeah, well, it's walk before you run in Europe, but one thing's for sure: there's not as many hypotheticals in Europe as what you obviously see in the U.S.
No, you have clear-cut government regulation. It's probably not easy to operate, but at least you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah. Looks like Village Farms just got some competition, but they were pretty much the lone player in that space when you think about it. But clearly they saw something, meaning Cronos, in that market. And I wonder what this means. Obviously, I don't think it's really going to take much away from what Village Farms is trying to implement. But, as the European market expands more and more, you can understand why more and more companies are focusing on that area, and makes sense considering everything that's gone on for many years in the U.S. So when looking at this, valuation was 1.4 times revenue and 2.4 times EBITDA. So when I look at that, does that look like a small multiple for a market still in a pilot phase, or you think it's
no? From a revenue perspective, that's where cannabis assets are trading. I mean, even in the U.S., 1 to 1.5 times cash, mostly 1 times cash or 1 times revenue. That EBITDA margin is quite large. I mean, as you see the Netherlands mature and as you see more competition enter the market and things come online, I think you're probably going to see prices compress as well as that margin compress. Yeah, that's a pretty impressive EBITDA margin that they have in that business.
Well, one thing, and you write out this cannabis book, is that Canadian LPs have a large focus on exporting and the European market. And this is just another chapter in that story that demonstrates that that's exactly what a lot of Canadian companies, especially LPs, see opportunity. US, it's very much outside of Cureleaf, US based, US focused, which I totally get. But we all know if these companies are going to scale and grow up in Canada, then the European market is front and center. But let's not kid ourselves. Let's not fall asleep on Canada. There's some good stories that are building domestically there as well.
Yeah, and keep in mind, from my understanding, the Netherlands, you cannot import. Canadian licensed producers are not exporting to the Netherlands. If you're selling cannabis in the Netherlands, you are growing it in the Netherlands.
You're right. It's a good point, which is why they bought.
Not like Germany.
That's why they bought the biggest player, which makes sense. Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's now move to PA, where a top Pennsylvania GOP senator said federal prohibition is a key reason the state hasn't legalized adult use. Surprise, surprise. This is something that we've been talking about. We interviewed Ryan Burke, CEO, or I should say president of Tyson 2.0, a couple of weeks ago. We also spoke to Michael Bronstein off of this. So it's obvious that in some ways, I feel like the state can't get out of their own way, but it's clear, and it's now, I don't want to say official, but we're hearing information from lawmakers within that state that if there is going to be change from an adult use perspective, they want some direction from Washington, which I get.
Thank you, Captain Obvious.
Yeah.
Not you, the lawmaker that was talking.
Well, now we know.
I mean, sure. Like Pennsylvania, my patience is running thin with Pennsylvania. I mean, they understood the exercise. The governor, if he could have it his way, would have adult use cannabis yesterday. They had a tax windfall. The budget was a complete fucking disaster. And they still fumbled it and still just denied bringing adult use online. Pennsylvania is arguably more frustrating than Florida in terms of the adult use flip. I know people are bullish on it flipping in 2026. I hope it does flip in 2026, but at the same time, like there's just no, they seem like they can't get their act together. They're surrounded by adult use states.
That's
Virginia is
what I mean.
going to flip before Pennsylvania. So if they're waiting for rescheduling or some sort of greater call signal, we'll call it, from the feds, like Ohio, for God's sakes, has gone adult use. Maryland, Virginia will in probably July of 2026.
New York.
Everywhere around them has gone adult use. There is no reason for them to make an excuse that they're waiting for a green light from the federal government to bring adult use cannabis online. They probably just don't want it.
Yeah.
Can't come to grips with each other at the state level from a politician's perspective. Or they're not getting paid enough.
Virginia. So Virginia, Maryland, Ohio, New York, New Jersey's east of New York. But yeah, you've got all these neighboring states, and still with the amount of tax dollars that a lot of residents from that state are driving to get their product, whatever, there's more to the story, and I don't get it, but obviously it's got to do with stigma in the years pertaining to cannabis. But hopefully once they get approval from or some sort of direction from Washington in a rescheduling announcement, that we do get this flipped. But it's mind-boggling to think that we're still talking, like, how many years did we talk about this where PA, if it flips to adult use, like that's going back to like 2021. Yeah.
4 years. And by the way, Gary, the closest to adult use is Virginia. They've got the bill. The governor governor-elect Spamberger has already basically endorsed adult use. And I think if she signs it into law, the first time it could possibly be ratified is July 1st of next year. And then it'll obviously have an implementation process. Right. Virginia is the closest, considering the vote in Florida won't be till November, and then you won't get anything implemented till probably 2027.
Yeah.
If that adult use initiative gets done.
Some of you have been asking too, like, why doesn't Cronos buy an MSO? Well, if they want to maintain, do they trade on the NASDAQ? I thought they only traded the TSX.
They haven't bought an MSO. Mike's been pretty vocal about why they haven't bought an MSO. I mean, they want to wait for brands to emerge. They want to wait for price compression to subside and for the economics of the industry to kind of just smooth itself out, which it hasn't. And that's why they're sitting on, I think, $780 million, give or take $10 million in either direction of cash. They've got the money.
Remember that day, $2 billion from Altria? What was that, 2019?
Yeah.
2019, so. $2 billion, $5 billion Constellation. Like, yeah. And then what was the big rumor? Diageo. Man, that's going way back.
Yeah.
The early days. All right. That wraps up basically our first segment, the topics into the wire. Let's now move into the good portion of this podcast. First time, actually, he's got a big name in the space, but he's all over Twitter. And we've met him a few times recently, and awesome guy. I know a lot of people know who Kyle is. So let's welcome in the CEO of Flowhub, Kyle Sherman. First time to TDR Trade to Black. Good to see you, sir. Nice camera, nice mic. How are you?
Not my first time, Shad. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
As a guy with the media background, I appreciate those things. I was having an interview yesterday, and I won't say names, but oh my God, it's just invest $1,000 and get a camera and mic. But it is what it is. How have you been? We saw you in Vegas last week, and saw you at the Encore, and had a lot of clients, a lot of people in the space. Always good to see people in Vegas and get face to face. We were talking earlier about how this remote work is overrated, and sometimes being in an office environment is good. But, I won't talk too much about recaps of MJ Biz because we've had quite a few podcasts based off of that. But I will say some people I have spoken to said, yeah, the audience might have been smaller, but it was probably the most productive conference they'd been to in years, which is a telling sign, I think, for the industry, knowing that many people believe 2025 is going to be a year for change. But as we head into 2026, many do believe we're in a healthier position. So how was it in Vegas for you?
Look, Vegas is always an interesting experience every year. I think that was like maybe my 10th or 11th MJ BizCon.
11.
Yeah, it may have been 11. I don't know. But save for the COVID era remote break we had from the show. But look, it was good. It was good to see familiar faces. I will tell you, the show seems significantly smaller, right?
Yeah,
it seems smaller. Now, the interesting thing about this, right? Even though it was smaller, it felt like this was one of the first years in a long time where we had the most valuable conversations. Yeah. And they weren't necessarily happening on the show floor. We didn't have a booth this year. We haven't had a booth since 2019. But we had this, Flowhub lounge at Encore, and it was great. For 3 days in a row, we were giving infused massages. We had this, we had like infused terpene drinks and giving out swag and just having like deep conversations in a private kind of lounge like atmosphere. And it proved to be that there were the right people in Vegas. Correct. But just less people in Vegas. And I'm not sure if that's because of the tariffs. Potentially you have less of the overseas vendors showing at the event, but it certainly seemed like it was smaller, Yeah.
So I said it on Monday. We walked around that damn floor. Maybe you didn't, but I did for the last 8 years. Yeah. Saying how many lighting, packaging, and vape companies vape component companies could possibly be on this floor. It's not sustainable. This year finally prove that it wasn't sustainable. Yeah. I have to assume that you had those not service providers, but just infrastructure providers that finally just were like, well, we can't do this anymore. The economics don't make sense.
Right.
Because I noticed that there were way less packaging, lighting, extraction, infrastructure that was just dominating the floor. And there was dozens of them just everywhere. It seemed like that attrition finally happened.
Yeah. The people who are left here, the companies that are here are the companies that are actually moving the needle in the space. I think
a lot. Agreed.
Yeah. There's just a lot of companies over the years, I think, that were, building to try to, produce as much cash as quickly as possible, extract as much value out of the ecosystem rather than provide value out, to the ecosystem. And I think you're seeing the result of that now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, as we look and we turn the page in a new chapter in this industry, and let's face it, like real players come to the forefront, messaging is key on behalf of the industry right now. And you've been very vocal on Twitter, calling out these anti-cannabis campaigns. You've shown examples where these posts have almost no organic engagement, yet they're clearly being boosted with money behind them. Fear-mongering. Anthony and I said it off the top. For those that don't follow the space, does it get through to them? But to your point, there is no engagement happening whatsoever. So what does this mean? Because as Anthony said as well off the top, we're seeing this everywhere right now. And it kind of subsided a bit, from the summer here in the fall. Now it's starting to pick up again, and it starts to raise questions like, is there something happening behind the scenes where conversations are starting to pick up about reform? Because why else would they be here? But your thoughts?
Hold on. First, I have to scrum it real quick. Give me a second. The scrummeting thing, right? I especially came out of nowhere. I mean, I kind of like wrote back against scrummeting last week, and that, I think it ended up with like 6.3 million impressions. So people obviously care about this topic. And I think the majority of people, actually believe that this is all just kind of like shitty, shoddy journalism, right? This is not reality. Look, I don't want to underplay. There are people that probably are allergic to cannabis. Maybe they're allergic to the pesticides that are used or whatever in cannabis, or they're using illicit market cannabis that has pesticides in it that are, illegal in the regulated market, whatever it might be. The point is, this is all ridiculous reefer madness 2.0 fodder. Yep. And, as someone who's been in the industry for 12 years and is focused on building a responsible, regulated market. And we do that obviously with technology at Flowhub, checking IDs at the door, right? Nobody wants kids to have cannabis, but if you look at these anti-cannabis campaigns. I mean, they're so coordinated across media in general. I think, Anthony, you said it before the show, but you look at the mainstream media, or legacy media, you look at across X or Instagram. I mean, there's just a lot of negative cannabis content. It's all happening at one time, which means one thing. There's a group of people that are extraordinarily fearful of what's about to happen.
Which I can't help but agree.
And I'm going to get some flack for this, but I firmly believe that we have seen anti-cannabis language and anti-cannabis media proliferate side saddle with the proliferation of hemp, because people cannot tell the difference between the products. You can't tell what the synthetic vapes are that says THC or the THC flower versus state regulated safe products. Now, it's anecdotal, but those products could be sending people to the ER. Those products, like people like Dank have tested, and they have carcinogens and pesticides in them. If you ingest those, there's going to be ramifications within your body, and you're going to have certain reactions to them. And the media, unfortunately, and these studies can't tell what is a rosin vape that you buy from Planet 13 versus an HHC vape that you buy from the gas station. It's all coming into the emergency room and being put in the bucket of THC caused this.
Well, same with synthetic, cannabinoids that are coming, that you spray flour with, coming from China and other countries. And you have to think about it, right? Look, I'm all for free markets. But we need some sort of regulatory oversight. And there's some great hemp companies. I'm a big fan of Breeze and Can. These are awesome beverages, also available on the regulated side of the market. But you're exactly right. And you think about the concentrates. Well, you're concentrating these oils. Well, guess what is also concentrated? The pesticides and the contaminants, the molds, whatever it could be, into that final product. And you think about, why is Laura Ingraham on Fox News? Why is she so against cannabis? Well, she talks about how prevalent cannabis is in Virginia for her children, and they can just go to a gas station and get it. And we have to think about this for a moment. Is the gas station, is that where we want to sell these products, right? Is it at a gas station openly available to children, underage folks? I don't think so.
It frames the bigger question then. Is the cannabis industry itself doing enough or a good job at countering these narratives? Like, we all know it's Sam. That's the face of, making sure that cannabis doesn't move ahead.
You're not going to be able.
You don't want to get involved in that conversation. I get it.
You're not going to be able to create the argument to separate the two unless you actually went to like a True Leaf dispensary with a fake ID or an underage ID and tried to buy cannabis, because you wouldn't get in the door. Period.
That's right. We've at Flowhub, I can speak for us, Anthony. At Flowhub, we've stopped millions of underage fake IDs. We track them on the back end. We know when a fake ID gets scanned. Now, I mean, look, I'm sure you could steal your cousin's ID. You're a year young. I'm sure there's scenarios where this occurs. But the reality is, most underage people are not able to buy cannabis in a regulated environment because they can lose their license.
Yeah. And that's
so why are they going to do it?
Right.
They don't.
Street dealers don't have any license to lose. They can sell to anybody.
I bring some of this stuff up because when we saw the media blitz after the hemp ban came through, like Kyle Turley, Joe Rogan, they didn't really go into specifics about
what was waiting for that. The bong water.
The bong water.
That was flowing in Vegas.
So they didn't get into specifics about what actually was being sold, other than the fact that it's no longer going to be available. And I think that's the challenge when it comes to messaging, is that if new people on a mainstream network, they still get in some ways audience numbers, but that has got to be pointed out as to why this ban took place. And they still don't know that. That's the challenge. So anyway, but yeah, I think at the end of the day, there's got to be, consistent messaging taking place. And, how do you do that? What do you think are some solutions?
Yeah, look, I think first we have to go to where the people and the ears are, and that's social media. And I think we have a responsibility as, industry insiders, people who've been in the industry fighting the good fight for a long time, to go and respond and take the time to respond to these folks. And I appreciate all my followers on X who are, fiercely supportive of what I'm doing there, and liking those posts and commenting on the posts. Because what that does is tells the algorithm, this is something that we should probably pass along to someone else. And it turns out, you look at the New York Post articles about scromining recently, these, I had one yesterday that now is like 1.7 million views. And, the reality is the majority of people, if you look at the comments, you look at who's viewing this stuff, they agree with the fact that this is just reefer madness content. They see it. People aren't stupid anymore about this. So they're not blind to this, the media manipulation. It's happening in front of all of our eyes. And so I guess my point is everyone should, go use AI to go look at the research that's being done or has been done on cannabis. Go look at the JAMA, scientific study and ask AI why the study is both good and bad, why it's a good study. And what you'll find is the majority of studies are actually not done well. They confuse causation and correlation. And we hear that phrase often. I know I tweet about it frequently, but there's actually one I just wrote about right before I know you guys were trying to chat with me and I was like heads down on this tweet. And so go like that, go repost it, go share it, add your commentary. The more people we get this in front of, the more we validate the truth.
Yeah.
If you look at all of these prohibitions, there's no data. They don't use data because there is no data. They have to use emotional manipulation, fear tactics,
bingo,
aggressive words. It's
the thing
ridiculous.
with scromiting too. I mean, and that's the last time I'm probably even going to say that term. Go take 8 shots of Jack. Let me know what response it elicits because you're probably going to vomit. I mean, and I hate to be the guy that goes, well, you're gonna knock cannabis. Well, alcohol does this, but you drink too much alcohol, you are going to puke. I've been there. It's pure causation.
Gents, I think in 10 to 15 years from now, we look at this and say, I can't believe what you guys had to go through. But you know what? If we go as far as the early days of cannabis and regulation, but when we look back 100 years ago, how many years did it take? 1919 to 1933 for prohibition. And then you said last week, Anthony, that the black market was still around for at least 10 more years. We're in the middle of it right now. But when you look at cannabis, cannabis as a whole, sorry, go ahead.
I don't think the black market's ever truly going to go away.
You never know.
Well, do people microbrew beer in their garage? Yes. Do they share it with their friends? They do.
Yeah, but the thing is too, and I mean, you can probably appreciate this as well, as beverage is a hard business to be in. Smuggling weed is probably way easier than smuggling kegs of beer. Let's say if there was going to be a black market for those products. I think that the legal market is going to slowly extinguish and strangle it into just an infinitesimal rounding error,
which is fine
in the grand scheme of things. But I don't think the black market for cannabis will ever just completely disappear.
So here's the reality, right? You can look at streaming services for this fact, right? You look at why did people pirate media content? Why did Napster take off? Because it was easier than driving to the store to go buy a CD.
Correct.
And so you think about, well, if streaming becomes difficult or too expensive, if value doesn't exceed the price, then people will go to the illicit market because it's the only place to go that's more convenient. And so you have to imagine we have to build an industry long-term that makes it more convenient and cheaper to buy it through a commercial business, a licensed commercial regulated business. The quality has to be better. We have to have an industry that supports that, which means we have to lower the state taxes at some point, right? This is ridiculous. You can't.
We're doing the opposite right now.
We're doing the opposite. Michigan passed that 24% tax. Absolutely ridiculous, right? Like that's just a great way to send all that business to the black market. Hey, maybe that's what people want. They want to make.
Why are they doing that though? Like it's a common sense question. Why is this being done? I don't get it. I really don't get it.
We're going to find out we're going to find out real quick what the repercussions are in the Michigan market. And I think Dirty's correct. He was saying that you're going to start to see the medical sides of the market that aren't going to be that aren't going to have that tax implemented start to trend to the upside. Because if I was a consumer versus eating that tax, if they're going to pass it off to me, I'm going straight back to the medical market.
It's like a Costco membership. You don't have to pay the large tax, and it's only $150 a year.
100%.
Good point.
You get the no tax.
I would do that in Florida in a second.
Talk about turning back the clock. Napster, Sean Napster. What's he up to these days?
Great. I was a Napster. I used to burn CDs for
right. And just think about how accessible that was, right? You think about, you like, why did people pirate content so readily? It's because Netflix really wasn't where it is today, right? Content was YouTube is not what it is today. And so people can go get content easily now. I really believe that fundamentally that the illicit market is going to be a hobbyist market. It's going to be, of course, people should all be able to home grow. We live in America. You own your property, grow at your house, share it with your friends.
Yeah. You've also highlighted how these fear campaigns, they always lean on the public health angle, painting cannabis as being dangerous is what we discussed. So is this about health, or is this just about people behind the scenes? And I assume it's probably baby boomers that just don't want cannabis to be progressed. Like, when we talk about rescheduling and hopefully one day full on legalization, because we've talked about this many, many times till we're blue in the face that this is definitely it's a generational thing, right?
But follow the money. We have huge industries that are at risk. And I don't want to be conspiracy here and play conspiracy theorist, but you've got the pharma industry, you've got the alcohol industry, you've got the tobacco industry. Alcohol's in decline right now, guys. I was just talking to a large alcohol distributor over this weekend, and alcohol is crashing. In fact, the large alcohol business, the businesses, they don't know what to do. They've shut down their venture arms. They're not making investments. They are panicked. And when people are panicked and they feel like they're put into a corner, well, guess what? They're going to put money into areas that maybe don't typically make sense. It could be against cannabis, right? And so I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening. It's hard to prove this, right? But you look at SAM, right? They've got here you have this drug policy advisor, Bush era policy advisor, doctor. You have these people who've lost their licenses that like also kind of work with SAM. You have these weird groups. They're getting 4 likes and 50 views a tweet. But you have these stories in Psychology Today. You have the New York Post article. Follow the money, right? These people are getting paid. When things don't make sense, somebody's getting paid. And I think they're getting paid by the lobbyists or out of funds for these groups. It doesn't even have to be that much money in the grand scheme of things, right? I mean, it's not expensive to do this stuff.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah.
A lot of mainstream media networks during COVID lost 80% of their ad revenue, and it never came back. And it was already declining even before then. So to your point, they will take anything on to exploit messaging. But cannabis, does it become a commodity, a global commodity like coffee? Like, I could see it in so many different ways. It's going to disrupt, cosmetics. It's going to disrupt the alcohol industry, the pharmaceutical industry. There's a lot of moving parts here. And just when you think, you've been this industry that's been around for 100+ years, what's the main reason why big alcohol got involved with this hemp ban? Because they saw bourbon companies in Kentucky that have been around for 100 years and their days are numbered. What 25-year-old is going out and buying a pack of smokes and a bottle of bourbon? Those days are over.
Those days are over. Those days, guys, they're done.
That generational shift is gone.
Guys, alcohol's terrible. Talk about scromedy, Anthony. I can't have a beer without getting acid reflux.
Alcohol's poison. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't want to be hungover. People don't, and don't get me wrong. Like I enjoy drinking from time to time. I'm not going to sit here and say that alcohol is like demon. I've done my fair share of drinking, but at the same time, like, I don't like drinking anymore because I don't like getting hungover, and it's genuinely not good for your health. There's now a generation of people that think that, and the generation behind them is probably going to think that even more. Yeah. Alcohol is going to be in decline for decades to come. Cigarettes is even worse at the end of the day. I mean, cigarettes are literally packed with carcinogens.
Think about this, guys. The pharmaceutical industry in 2025, $520 billion. The alcohol business, $240 billion. Yeah. These are massive eroding industries. Now, pharma, I'll take maybe erosion is too strong of a word there because it is a growing industry, but it puts that industry at major risk. Think about cannabis, right? I had 2 weeks of really bad sleep the last couple of weeks. I haven't used cannabis that much this year. I go through phases, but I'll tell you the last 4 or 5 nights I've been using about 5 milligrams of gummy before bed every night. And I've been sleeping 8.5 hours. I feel recovered. I feel rejuvenated. My kids have been sick. I haven't gotten sick because my immune system is repairing itself overnight. The point is, I didn't take Ambien. I didn't take a benzodiazepine, Xanax or Valium, Klonopin. I didn't take those. I didn't go to my doctor and request them. I took a gummy, and the gummy was pretty cheap. It was really accessible. I went to my dispensary and bought, the gummy.
And you don't feel groggy the next day.
I feel great. I sleep better than without it.
What do you think's the right messaging then? if we get our name face out there, like, let's face it, they are in defensive mode when you have fear mongering messaging that's out there right now. And when they're on the defensive mode, that means something is there. So to be ready for this opportunity in the event that rescheduling does indeed happen, there's going to have to be some sort of messaging and some sort of front by a lot of people in this space. What is, I guess, without overwhelming them with too much information off the top, what are the first necessary steps to get the right messaging right in the right way? Sorry about that.
I think going back to what I initially said, Shad, we just have to be louder on social media. And it's positive stuff. I mean, you just use data. Again, we have these large language models now, and guess what? They're really good at crunching data and pulling out statistics, and it's okay to cannabis is not I think for a long time, as an industry, we were like, cannabis is end all be all. It solves all problems. I don't think that's right. I think we have to be much more mindful about our communication there, right? I mean, there's negative side effects.
If you point to the inflection point that really took off the last time, it was Charlotte Figge, CBD, how it was curing seizures, and how cannabis was positively impacting people's lives.
Yeah.
We have that at scale now. If someone did a documentary and drove around Florida and talked to the octogenarian geriatric population about how cannabis, medical cannabis, has improved their quality of life with everything from pain to sleep and drastically improved the way that they're living, society's not descending into madness. There's 40 states that have medical marijuana that are online. There's 20 some odd states that have adult use cannabis. There needs to be a light shown on the positive impact paired with there isn't a negative societal impact that goes along with legalization as well, because there are studies. There's been studies on Canada and there's been studies in the US that crime has gone down with the legalization of cannabis. Teenage usage has gone down with the legalization of cannabis, but we don't get these things that are going on in the mainstream media. It was Charlotte Figge and it was Sanjay Gupta that started this. And now it's kind of like tapered off because we haven't reached critical mass, but cannabis is pretty damn accessible.
And here's the thing, right? We got to remember, it's what you guys are doing here at TDR. Media has become decentralized. Yeah. And so we don't have great content and media in our space. I think you guys are doing a phenomenal job. We're doing it with the Great American Dispensary Tour, traveling the country, visiting dispensaries, showing what's happening on the front lines.
Great job, by the way. Very good job that you're doing there.
Thank you, Shad. I super appreciate it. We put a lot of love. There's more episodes coming out. You can find that on YouTube. But the point is, we're just trying to show people what is actually happening. And I think you got to start simple, right? Like repeatable framing that, people can remember, right? Like using, you got to pick apart the emotion and the kind of, like if we have a cleaner message and it's not confusing, then we win with that messaging, right? Like,
I think we got to be given that opportunity. We have a guest on here, Matthew Wiz Buckley, and he's got a PR firm and he pops up on Megyn Kelly's podcast, Fox News all the time. And he definitely wants to talk about veterans, suicide, and psychedelic medicine. Soon as that gets brought up, especially when you go to 30, 60-second commercials, it's all about pharmaceutical drugs.
But it also needs to be...
Hold on. They just say no to that topic. We're just going to talk about aviation because he's a former, Top Gun fighter pilot. I think that's the challenge that we see right now is that there's a lot of talking points. We do obviously stick to social media, but I still think mainstream media still has its leverage to like have that image where it's safe, the stigma gets thrown away. And I'm curious to see how much that could change in the event that we do get a rescheduling announcement, because whether you like it or not, it's now been rescheduled. So you better brace on. Otherwise you get left behind. But go ahead, Anthony.
There also needs to be a change in public perception, because most of America, when they hear cannabis or they hear marijuana, they think of Cheech and Chong. They think of like the High Times Cannabis Cup. They see these people on social media that are ripping dabs and getting just stoned out of their minds. Granted, like I said, you want to do whatever you want to do with your body, go ahead. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But that perception needs to change.
Yeah.
And granted, I mean, we've got Ricky, we've got Mike Tyson. There's plenty of athletes that are sitting here coming into the fold that are saying, well, I use this therapeutically to heal. I'm not using it as a recreational drug, but that whole ethos is not really pounded into people's heads. to where their perception has actually changed. They still think about what I said, Cheech and Chong, Cannabis Cup, all that kind of stuff. And
the problem is it's the extreme side of the industry, right? Like it's this old kind of relic from Prohibition era, and it's kind of a statement, right? And that is carried into the legal regulated industry, right? I mean, there are brands that support that still, but at the end of the day, and that's not like inherently bad, right? It's just that's like part of some of the early culture that kind of like urban culture that cannabis started with in many ways, right? But look, today, traveling the country, I can speak firsthand. I'm meeting patients and people. These are just everyday Americans that are working blue collar jobs and white collar jobs, and they're living life, getting a mortgage, buying a home, building a family, and cannabis helps them, and that's amazing. I mean, cannabis got me off of a plethora of pharmaceuticals, SSRIs, and benzodiazepines. And boy, it took a year to get off, but cannabis changed my whole life. That's why I got into the space.
It also needs to change. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just saying, I think this all comes down to translating, complex science into punchy, relatable sentences. Like we've got to communicate better. And I think, here's a great example. Instead of being like, well, association doesn't apply, causation's not quite whatever, right? You just say, look, if cannabis caused a mental health crisis, wouldn't we see it in the numbers?
Yeah.
Correct.
Where's the numbers?
Social media causes more psychosis than cannabis.
Right.
And we actually need that needs to be branded because that's
right. And then I think we need to do a better job of calling out motives without being, conspiracy theorists. Like we don't need to say, well, big pharma is silencing us. I mean, come on, this is just follow the money, right? Alcohol, pharma, addiction treatment centers. There's hundreds of billions of dollars, and cannabis competes with all of them. Of course, there's going to be pushback.
We talk a lot. Right. We talk a lot to our own community. We got to branch that out. Like, can you imagine if somebody
what it's going to take, to be honest, this is a little bit grandiose and not practical, but what it's going to take is the feds to just rip the Band-Aid off, and then everything starts to fall into place. And the public is forced to change their perception, because if cannabis is descheduled or cannabis is legalized nationwide to a certain degree, and people just start to forget about it, meanwhile, it's widely accessible. It's not being prosecuted anymore. People aren't getting arrested for it. People are doing it in the privacy of their own homes. Everything will just move forward. And the people that want to gravitate towards it will gravitate towards it. And the people that don't want it in their lives whatsoever won't have to deal with it or see it. And that's that. I mean, it'll sort itself out, but the feds just need to get it done.
It's time. I mean, we have so many states, Anthony, that are obviously medicinally legal or adult use legal at this point. And I think, Gretchen said this in the chat, and I tweeted about this at some point over the last couple of months, but it's the issue right now is that most Americans have access to cannabis in some form or another. And so, and through a dispensary, through some regulated market. And so they think cannabis is legal. They don't think about the federal recognition of the space or Schedule 1. That's all way over consumers' heads. Can they buy it or not at the store? And what they're not realizing is all these stores could go away. The industry could be entirely disrupted.
But there's also
the feds don't do anything.
That stigma is still there, though, because look, we look at the state of Michigan next door to where you're at, and it's legal both medically and from a recreational standpoint. Yet when I talk to a lot of people from the state, they have to do drug tests for where they work. And if they test positive for cannabis, they could lose their jobs. That is crazy, like, to think, and that's still that stigma. But I feel like a lot of times that the people that are representing us in the conversations we're having, it's like we're speaking to our own audience. It's like we got to go outside it. And it's like, can you imagine somebody like a Tom Brady that talks about taking, I don't know, some sort of gummy, his post NFL playing career, and what that would do and how that would start to change, the image of the overall industry? That's the kind of stuff that we need right now.
I mean, you got plenty of NBA players that are saying that right now. You got Steven Jackson, Matt Barnes, Al Harrington, Kevin Durant. They're saying that in droves.
The reality is,
I think the NBA's embraced cannabis.
I think celebrity doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. It doesn't matter if it's an athlete or an actor, right? The reality is it does. We have decentralized media now. You guys are doing a phenomenal job filling a void, right? We're trying to fill the void with narrative content with the Great American Dispensary Tour. And, it's got to be high quality. It's got to be clear. And I think this brings up another point, because you asked, well, what can we do? Well, I think we need to lead with clear facts and not edge cases. We need to be clear that there's 178,000 American deaths every year from alcohol. That's really easy to comprehend that information. There's 0 fatal cannabis overdoses. And by the way, if you want to prove that to somebody, take them to the DEA's own website, because the information is there. And by the way, FDA approved cannabis medicine does exist, Epidiolex.
Right.
I mean, but then you have people like Alex Berenson that want to go correlate people that have fatal car crashes that happen to have THC in their system, not even saying that they're intoxicated by THC at that point in the accident. And he's checking those off as fatalities caused by cannabis with just complete fake news BS.
This is like people dying from COVID. It's a COVID death, but they didn't, they weren't, that's not why they passed, but they were marked that way.
He's doing that exact thing.
Yeah, that's wild. I think there's an easy response to that, which is
he's very right. But Alex Berenson is the one that goes on Laura Ingraham. That then, granted, there's not that many viewers anymore on Fox News in the evening. I mean, Joe Rogan gets way more viewers.
Let's be honest. It's the oldest generation still around that's watching.
But they happen to be running shit. They happen to be running shit around here.
They happen to be right. It's fair.
I mean, that's the generation that we need to have bought in.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I often, one of the other things I like to do just around communication is using stories, the stories that I hear out on the road, and not just like data that's like headless data or there's parents with children with epilepsy who only respond to cannabis, like Charlotte Figge you brought up, or veterans who finally sleep after. Right. And veterans who sleep after years of PTSDs, PTSD episodes.
Tell me more about this tour. Like, what is it you're looking to accomplish? What's the main objective?
Yeah. We started a year ago, and, we bought a bus. We started traveling to states, and essentially with a camera crew, an Emmy award-winning camera crew. And so it's good quality. If you watch it, it feels high quality. And we go and talk to people. It turns out that because every state is like its own country in cannabis, there's so many differences between California and Washington, D.C. as a district. I bet. We just did D.C., so that comes out pretty soon. And we have a couple episodes coming out like this on the East Coast right now, but you'll see over the year, this next year, we're gonna have episodes across the whole country, and you'll see there's these big differences, and that leads to a difference in the business culture. It leads to a difference in culture and who's buying cannabis. As there's an episode coming out real soon about Maryland, and in Maryland there's a group of stores, this store called Greenpoint Wellness. And one of the things you'll notice about Greenpoint Wellness is they hire a lot of folks who are retired behind the counter. They have they're high volume. They have a lot of registers, and great, very educated staff. But the staff is quite a bit older than you'd expect.
They're reliable, and they want to work.
And they love the product, right? They talk about terpenes with patients. And with people who are using adult use, they recommend products based on their own experiences. It's a beautiful thing. You don't see that in every market, right? But in Maryland, at Greenpoint Wellness, they hire a lot of people who are retired, and it's awesome. They're busy all day long. They've got a drive-through, and it's just what we're trying to accomplish here, Shad, is we're trying to show that this is a normal industry. These are real business people. Yeah, these are real patients. The grows are like pharmaceutical grade, right? I mean, these are, you go into some of these grows and it's not like a closet. I mean, it's a factory.
The GMP.
And the guy running it is the guy who grows for Home Depot and Lowe's. This is just another agricultural industry. We go and talk to people who own labs and we say, oh, wow, that's crazy. So you're testing for these pesticides that cause cancer. You're testing for contaminants and mold. So you mean they don't end up in the consumer in any way? Yeah. No. And even if it makes it through some of that stuff, you can recall items because everything's tracked better than we track uranium in the United States. Right. So we're going and exploring the front lines because that's where everything's happening and every state's different. And so it's really fun. We have a lot of fun. I mean, it's
good. Well, when you bring all this stuff up, you need direction from Washington. That's the first big step. And if we could get rescheduling announced, then it's onwards and upwards. And I think a lot of this stuff that we've been working on the state level for a number of years actually starts to make more sense relatively quickly. And we've seen that even with this hemp ban that's taken place in the last 30 to 60 days. We have some clarity now. And I think that's the hope that this industry will indeed demonstrate, because it's not going away anywhere. I see Gretchen comment. She said, look, They aren't saying it in a cohesive strategic plan. One tweet here or there will do nothing. And I agree with her. There has to be consistent messaging for a number of voices, from high profile voices, and you keep that front and center for a long period of time.
High profile voices are busy people. They have a lot of stuff going on. Kevin Durant's not going to drop everything he's doing to become a cannabis advocate.
Well, that's why we need more people involved. Maybe it's not
Kevin Durant is not going to turn his persona into cannabis advocacy, regardless of the business opportunities.
But there needs to be.
What we need is the CEOs of the MSOs turning their patient bases into testimonials and into storylines that show that they're positively impacting people's lives.
Yeah,
that will be higher impact than KD saying, "Well, I smoked a joint after a game."
This is exactly right. We're not. Look, it takes a lot of coordination across the entire industry. But look at our opposition right now. They're a very small group of people. They just happen to be very loud. And I think the reality is, just like cannabis has been grassroots all along, we've got to do the same thing with media. We have what you guys are doing here is doing you guys have what, 70,000 subscribers on YouTube? That's only going to grow. This is an amazing show you guys have built, and you're helping destigmatize this stuff. Now, Laura Ingram's not going to tune in your show right away, but I'll tell you, over time, the message, you're going to hit another retail investor that is her next door neighbor, and they're going to talk about it over dinner at some point. The work we're doing, the Great American Dispensary Tour, same thing. I mean, there's all sorts of ages and demographics watches. We have to produce more high quality content in this space. I'm a huge advocate for content creation because it has to exist.
Who you got involved in this? Any big name people behind the scenes?
My good friend Ricky Lake, big advocate for legalization, former talk show host back in the day. A lot of people remember her. She's a great documentary filmmaker, and so she's producing this show with us, and it's just been a great time working with her. Jason Kennedy has been helping out too, which has been a lot of fun. He's on the Today Show, and
she's quite the entrepreneur as well, is she not?
She is. She's incredible. Ricky Lake is one of my all-time favorite human beings. I mean, she has the biggest heart. She's just got the kindest soul, and she just loves creating great art, and telling stories. I mean, she's a phenomenal storyteller. She's also got a cannabis brand with Stone Road in California, Ricky Lake and Bake. But she's a killer entrepreneur, and she just loves life. I mean, how'd
you meet her?
We were introduced by a friend. Probably like 8 years ago now. We've been friends for quite some time. We did Weed the People. She brought me into Weed the People towards the end of that film, which was on Netflix for many years, about kids who use cannabis to help them through their cancer treatments, and a very sad documentary in many ways, but also very empowering, right? It turns out there's this great medicine comes from a plant outside of the pharma, grind. And by the way, you can grow it in your backyard. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Gretchen, if you know Laura Ingram, I will write you a check right now to get anybody in front of Laura Ingram to talk to her about the benefits of this industry and of cannabis.
I would love to sit down with Laura Ingram. The three of us should go sit down with Laura.
Don't think she's going to take that one on, Jen.
No, she won't. But this is the thing, guys. If you look at follow the money, why is her show on air? It's because she's making money from who? Big Pharma. Guess who's Big Pharma's biggest customers are? The generation watching the show. Right, they don't need that. They don't want us. That's why we have to create our own content, and we have to be loud.
Takes a special personality to host a show on that format to say the things that you do, and she fits that glove, so to speak.
I mean, look at Tucker after he left. That's all you need to see.
Yep.
I mean, look, fear sells, guys. I mean, they get the clicks. Look at the New York Post articles on X over the last 2 weeks.
Everywhere. Look at mainstream sports. It's just it's some of the stuff that these broadcasters say, but it's just all about debating back and forth.
They want the views.
It's Donald Trump started all that stuff with the debate of 2016. And all of a sudden they opened up their eyes and said, that's the format that we have to do to stay relevant. And
Donald Trump turned politics into WWF.
Yeah.
In 2016,
right.
That was the inflection point where politics just became entertainment.
Yeah.
That actually greatly impacts all of our lives.
I mean, it's all algorithmic, right? The crazy thing is we live for the algorithm. I've been trained by the X algorithm. I know exactly how to to get clicks and views. I mean, there's a way you learn it over time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was thinking the other day, I was like, you know what? That's crazy. I've been trained by a fucking computer on what works and how to say things.
Have you met Montel Williams?
I haven't met Montel.
Me either. I know there's some people that always comment here. Christopher
I met him
Brady
back in the day at MJ Biz.
Did you?
I've got a story with another episode.
Somebody say Phil O'Donohue. Yeah, Phil O'Donohue's been dead for I don't know how many years. Long time. I'm surprised you even know who he is, Anthony. But
I just think, guys, a lot of this legacy media is overrated. I think the audiences are way smaller than people realize. I mean, some of these shows are getting only a couple 100,000 views rather than millions. If they were YouTube channels, they'd be small YouTube channels, very small.
Do you know what Shark Tank gets on ABC across the country on Friday nights? 275,000 viewers. Think about
exactly my point.
There's some radio stations in specific markets that get 3 times that audience, though I'd be willing to argue that's probably gone down. However, those clips from Shark Tank get 10 to 15 million views.
Exactly. Yeah, so, it's the clips. It's the clips that matter.
And guess what? We're in that environment. So I've often told so many broadcasters that are 55, 60 years old, you can go out and reinvent yourself and just create content on a platform like this. And there's no better example than Jordan Peterson, who's 62, 63 years old. If you can find what platform where people consume it, age is nothing but a number. And there's lots of opportunities. But the challenge is a lot of people in mainstream media have this persona where they read out of a teleprompter and know a little bit about a lot of things, where you need to know a lot about one thing. And that takes time. And that's why we focus solely and specifically on this industry, because we hope one day that we see the potential. Oh my God, the old school names are coming in. Sally, Jesse, Raphael. Who else we got?
Maury Povich.
Maury Povich. Bill O'Reilly.
That's right.
I used to watch Maury Povich when I was at home sick from school. With,
Bill O'Reilly before we got going, Kyle. F it, we'll do it live.
Yeah. F it, man.
Yeah.
We'll do it live.
This has been good, and I think we'll probably have you on quite a bit more, but this has been great.
Thanks for having me on, guys. This was it was fun. It was fun getting to do this with you guys. Appreciate the opportunity, and it's always fun bantering on X as well.
Yeah, maybe it's time to have a third host for the show. But Anthony and I love the revolving doors of different guests that we always meet. But obviously, we need to have you on maybe a little bit more than the average guest. But this has been great.
I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to you guys. I'll do anything. It's a lot of fun.
Listen, good seeing you last week. We've seen you a couple times the last couple of weeks, so let's keep in touch. And if we don't get a chance to see you before the holiday season, Merry Christmas. Got to meet your wife last week too. Great person. And the kids, I'm sure they're getting ready for Christmas. So happy holidays to you and the family, okay?
Thank you, Shad. Thanks, Anthony, for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
All right, thanks, Kyle. All right, that wraps up our segment here on Traded Black today with Kyle Sherman. But all in all, good show.
How'd you know Kyle doesn't celebrate Hanukkah?
Say it again.
How'd you know Kyle doesn't celebrate Hanukkah?
I don't, but that was a question I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, you're solo on Friday, and you got a good show coming up.
Adam Perry and Hersher on with me.
Great.
So we're going to be talking about the long-term viability of the hemp industry, the coordinated effort around state-run cannabis industry right now, and probably talk about some other topics. 2 guys that I greatly respect their points of view on the industry, and it should be a pretty good conversation.
Yeah, we saw Hirsch last week in Vegas. It's been a year since we oh God, Gretchen. Anyway, we saw him last week, and it was good to catch up with him. But yeah, I'm glad that you connected with him, and it'll be on. Quick reminder as well, when your tools work together, your dispensary runs better. Dutchie unifies point of sale, e-commerce, loyalty, marketing, and payments into one connected system, simplifying options and delivering a seamless customer experience. If you work in the industry, if you run your own dispensary, or an employee at the dispensary, if you want to learn more, visit business.dutchie.com. One last thing too, we got Micah Anderson on tomorrow morning for a pre-record that's going to go not live, but will be posted tomorrow at 4:00 as we get some latest news and updates from Leaf Brands, which, man, I hope we can get out there in 2026 at some point. Cause
the ranch.
That ranch looks incredible. Jesse posts some really good pictures of that ranch, but
yeah, they're doing a good job with their content as well.
Doing very, very well. And company is doing very well in a very battle tested state in California. and clearly using a lot of that expertise and flooding into New York now. And New York, great turnaround story, as some of the conversations we had last week about how lawmakers are making it a main priority to really go after this illicit market. And you're seeing some of those numbers improve, which is good. So hopefully this new regulator in California, though I think the task is going to be much steeper, we can one day see a turnaround story in California, because the impact that would have nationwide on the industry would be monumental. But
someone's got to be making money there.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, that's it for now. Make sure to like, subscribe, smash on that bell for all notifications, and scan that QR code to become a daily Baked In newsletter subscriber. We'll have the latest information on the news, business, reform side tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, delivered to your inbox. In the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day, evening. And Anthony, we'll see you back here 11 a.m. on our latest live stream, TDR Trade Black, presented by Dutchie. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names of the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.